In theology, special revelation occurs when God deliberately enters human history to make himself and his redemptive plans known to specific people. It is easy to picture this process as a single, static broadcasting channel, a uniform voice echoing from the heavens across the centuries. A close reading of the text shows something very different. Divine communication operates across a highly complex, historically varied taxonomy. To see how this works, we can map these methods onto a classification matrix. Laying out this structural architecture allows us to track exactly how the Old and New Testaments connect and where they diverge. When you map the methods of revelation used in the Old Testament against those in the New Testament, a clear pattern of continuity emerges. God utilizes almost the same communication categories to guide ancient Israel and the early church. Yet in the middle of this mapping, there is one glaring omission. When the timeline shifts to the New Testament, a specific historical method drops off the map. This specific omission identifies the architectural core of Christian theology. To isolate exactly what disappeared and why, we first have to build out the baseline dataset from the Old Testament. Starting with the Old Testament, we see a historical progression of distinct communication methods. The first category involves experiential means. This includes theophanies, direct physical manifestations of God, alongside dreams and visions given to individuals. Next are direct verbal means. God speaks audibly to figures like the boy Samuel, and he delivers prophetic declarations through messengers like Isaiah. The third category relies on mechanical means. This includes the casting of lots to assign tasks, as detailed in Leviticus 16, and a physical tool known as the Urim and Thummim, established in Exodus 28. The Urim and Thummim function specifically as a mechanical tool for determining the divine will. It was carried in the breastplate of judgment, worn exclusively by the high priest, and consulted in cases where God's direction for the nation of Israel was ambiguous. While the methods in this dataset range from dreams to physical objects, they all share a unified redemptive and covenantal purpose. That purpose leads directly into a major theological debate surrounding the prophetic declaration category. There is an academic claim that divine revelation is strictly a subjective encounter. The argument suggests God provides an experience, but remains nonverbal, without objective data. The biblical record explicitly counters this. True revelation is simultaneously personal and verbal. God chooses to speak specific words. This introduces propositional revelation. It means God provides an inspired textual interpretation of his historical acts, translating divine action into concrete statements of truth. We see this in practice when the prophet Jeremiah actively dictates the words of the Lord to his secretary Baruch, recording objective data onto a physical scroll. God's initiative to relate to humanity requires providing the textual, propositional truth necessary to correctly interpret his actions. With that baseline established, we can trace the timeline forward into the New Testament era to see how these modalities evolved. The experiential means map over seamlessly. Paul encounters a theophany of the glorified Christ on the road to Damascus, and Peter receives a direct vision regarding the Gentiles in Acts 10. We see mechanical and verbal means continue as well. The apostles cast lots to replace Judas, an angel speaks to Joseph in a dream, and a voice from heaven speaks audibly in John chapter 12. The structural continuity here is robust. The early church relies on the exact same categories of revelation established in the Old Testament. But here is the discrepancy. The node for the Urim and Thummim attempts to cross the timeline and finds no New Testament equivalent. Why does a mechanical tool designed strictly for discerning God's will vanish from the biblical record exactly as the early church begins? Its disappearance points to a deliberate theological shift rather than a loss of historical data. The answer lies in the specific user of that tool. The Urim and Thummim were restricted exclusively to the Old Testament high priest. This brings us to typology, where institutions in the Old Testament serve as structural foreshadowing for realities established in the New Testament. The writer of Hebrews chapters 4 and 5 details how Jesus Christ acts as the ultimate fulfillment of that high priestly role. Because the ultimate high priest has arrived, the mechanical tool used to discern the will of God in the shadows is rendered obsolete. Jesus' presence serves as the final, perfect revelation of God's will, fulfilling the role of the ancient mediators. The Incarnation represents the absolute end of the old mediators. The obsolescence of the Urim alters how we view the entire taxonomy of divine communication. New Testament revelation centralizes the entire taxonomy of communication, folding all methods into the person of Christ. Even the ongoing work of the Holy Spirit operates within this new centralized framework. While the Spirit utilizes various means in the early church, his function is explicitly focused on bearing witness to the person and work of Christ. This document shows Jesus' farewell discourse. Notice chapters 14 through 16, where he states the Spirit will teach the apostles and bring his words to their remembrance. This focus yields the final propositional revelation, the text of the New Testament itself. Moving forward, all legitimate special revelation anchors entirely on the person and work of Christ. Stepping back to look at the entire scope of biblical history, the underlying architectural pattern of these events becomes completely clear. The taxonomy of divine communication begins vast, utilizing dreams, objects, voices, and visions. Yet, this vast variety of methods follows a strict linear progression. Each subsequent act of revelation builds upon the last, adding clarification and completing the picture without contradicting the earlier data. The entire architecture of special revelation was designed from the beginning for one singular purpose: to culminate in the Word made flesh.